covering Redskins training camp, reporting in Baltimore, in Richmond, reporting from the Convocation Center in Annapolis, in Landover, Maryland, at Nationals Park, from Bridgeport Stadium, here at Villanova Stadium, reporting from Veterans Memorial Park.
WHSV Sports Director David Guzman following the team for us tonight in Annapolis, Maryland.
An amazing day of football with some amazing weather here in Annapolis is turning to an evening of celebration for some happy Hokies.
At 5, a New Year's tradition is set to make its first appearance in our nation's capital as outdoor hockey invades the home of Washington baseball.
The countdown to the Winter Classic is now in its final hours, and WHSV's Sports Director David Guzman is at Nationals Park with how the weather could play a big role in when the game will be played.
First off, take a look behind me. There is an ice hockey rink where there's supposed to be a baseball field here at Nationals Park. Organizers have been spending the last few months getting this event ready. In fact, for the last couple of weeks, they've been working here at Nationals Park preparing for the Winter Classic. But one thing that they can't control is the weather.
It's a long day for our sports director, David Guzman. He joins us live at the Convocation Center. David?
Yeah, John, a very long day indeed. The pep band rocking as the doors, as you said, just opened. Fans are filing in. Speaking of fans, here are some dedicated fans right here. They are pumped and they got front row seats to tonight's matchup. For the first time since 2007, FedEx Field behind me is the home for a Thursday night NFL matchup. I'm David Guzman live from Landover, Maryland, and I'll have a preview of this primetime game between the Redskins and the Giants. That's next in sports. You are one of 9 returning players. What is it like to come back to Harrisonburg with a mix of old and new faces?
It's great. It's great coming back, seeing guys from last year.
Tali Moore has come a long way in her softball career, literally. The freshman hails from Sydney, Australia.
I love Sydney. I live about 45 minutes away from the Opera House and everything.
Running, absolutely. It's where I feel at peace. It's where I feel joy. It's what I can do to organize my thoughts. It's what I can do to prevent anxiety, and it's basically self-medicating.
Running is a sanctuary for Ryan Gaiman, a place to escape a life full of struggle.
Around 4 years old, I was diagnosed with a high-functioning form of autism by a doctor. He told my parents that I would never be able to write, that my reading level would stay around 5th grade, I wouldn't have motor skills.
I just love being in the woods, so it drew me in, and love being out here riding rocks and going super fast through the woods.
Over challenging terrain and through narrow turns, Derek Elliott pedals with a passion.
I hope that all the work that I put in and all that I've trained for actually shows.
It already has for Elijah Haig, who is reaching the peak of a breakout season on the track.
It's exceeded everything that I could have imagined, honestly.
Bill Phipps has been the public address announcer at Clover Hill baseball games for about the last decade and a half. But the Bucs' voice was missing for the last month as Phipps dealt with a brain tumor. Tonight, the veteran returns to the small shed above the wooden seats at the Clover Dome.
I'm overwhelmingly thrilled to be back. I can't wait for tonight. Anytime I miss a Clover Hill game, I miss it as much as I miss anything.
For Bill Phipps, this room that overlooks the field at Buck Bowman Park is his second home.
Football is back with hard hits and crushing tackles. And if your child is playing, there's one question you should ask. Is the helmet safe? Tonight on WHSV's 11 at 11, we're headed to Virginia Tech, where one professor is using technology to put helmets to the test. Find out which helmets are best, which ones are used in the Valley, and what questions you should be asking your child's coach. It's information every football parent needs to know. Impact, tonight on WHSV's 11 at 11.
So I have here 2 helmets, guys. This green one is the older helmet, a Rydell VSR4. Rydell actually doesn't make these anymore. This is from the late 90s, early 2000s. It's still being used around. And the shiny gray one is the newer Rydell Revolution Speed helmet. And on the outside, you can just tell the difference. The VSR4, a smoother shell, while the Speed has a much more complicated design. This is adding stiffness so it can handle a broad range of impacts on the sides there. Then inside, you can see the padding. Well, you can see here, much thicker than this one. That means it'll absorb hits better. So the goal obviously is to phase out these older helmets for these newer 5-star rated ones.
A football player at Bridgewater College has ventured the path less traveled.
And sports director David DeGuzman joins us with a story that takes us off the football field and onto the front lines. Yeah, imagine playing football and winning a conference championship, making it all the way to the national semifinals, all of this in your freshman year, and then leaving all of that success behind to answer a higher calling. That's exactly what happened to Bridgewater's Matt Johnson. And WHSV's Andrew Clay dives into the junior linebacker's incredible journey as a U.S. soldier.
I was actually just beginning high school. I was in 9th grade at the time. We turned on the news and found out that airplanes had struck the World Trade Center, and eventually there was a crash at the Pentagon and out in western Pennsylvania. It really hit home. Military had always been a big part of me, especially after 9/11, and I always had that patriotic side of me, so I decided to leave here and join the Army then in February of 2006.
In the fall of 2005, Matt Johnson was a freshman on an incredible Bridgewater football team. Trading the glamour and success for combat boots was one of the most difficult decisions of his life.
Part of me really wanted to stay here, wanted to get my education, to continue to play football. I really enjoyed it here. And I almost felt like I was letting down Coach Clark. I just felt that it was just inside me to help defend the country.
I remember having a conversation with Matt in December after his freshman year. He wasn't doing well in school, and we remember back in December 2005, I remember telling him, I said, Matt, if you enlist, you're going to get some difficult duty.
At the age of 20, Johnson joined the 101st Airborne Division and was deployed to Iraq.
It's not so much your age, it's more what's inside of you.
He spent 3 deployments in 29 months overseas.
We had about half a truck full of just school supplies, pens, pencils, notebooks, coloring books, and we actually took the day and drove around to a few different schools and delivered it to the kids while they were in school. So they came running out and they were really excited, and just seeing like the smiles on their face, and it was a combat zone and everything else. It was still nice to be able to see that we were also doing good.
Last spring, he returned to Bridgewater, worked on his grades and is back on the field, following his heart.
You know, I saw his father after the game last Saturday, and he said, Coach, I know there's still work to do, but he goes, this is kind of the happiest I've seen Matt in a long time.
A part of me had always reserved, I guess, myself for football. I really felt like I never was able to close that chapter. And that's when I just realized that the Army was great and everything, and maybe I could go back there one day, and I feel a little bit more at peace with myself, or at least the beginning stages of it, being able to come back, get a great education, and play football again, and it's been really enjoyable.
In Bridgewater, Andrew Clay, WHSV Sports.
Incredible journey for him. The road back to football was not easy for Matt Johnson, dealing with academic and eligibility issues, but he brings a very unique level of experience you certainly won't find on many football fields in this country. Definitely a very powerful story and a lot of courage there, so thank him for his service. That's great stuff. Okay, men, 1 half down, 1 to go. I want you to go out there, hold your heads up high, and leave it all out on the field. Every play counts. I need you to give 110% until that clock hits 0. Are you pumped? Yeah! Are you pumped? Yeah! Let's go out there! Let's do it!
The End Zone, every Friday night following WHSV's 11 at 11. The End Zone is brought to you by Pepsi, Joe Bowman Auto Plaza, and Subway.
We've reached the end of the final end zone show this season, but that doesn't mean we're done covering our playoff teams.
No, not at all. We will have abbreviated editions of End Zone throughout the playoffs. We will follow every Valley team until they're either eliminated from postseason play or they win the whole thing.
Man, this is the end right here. It won't be the same as the full End Zone, of course, but hey, it's been a fun year, David. Definitely.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Thank you very much for joining me here.
Absolutely.
It's been great, Tom. We don't do this alone, so we now leave you with a look back at some of the great moments, and they were great, that we shared on the show, along with the names of the men and women that worked tirelessly behind the scenes to make this show possible. The Friday night lights are finally back on, shining bright on the hopes and dreams of high school football teams across the Valley. And I am thrilled to have a veteran End Zone member join me, flipping his schedule upside down.
Lots of coffee today, that's for sure.
It's time to head into the WHSV end zone. Top three, top three, top three. This is a top three nominee. Knights head coach Charlie Newman is in the hospital tonight after collapsing on the field.
Charlie Newman, one of our favorites here on End Zone.
And on a very emotional night, Turner Ashby winning a thriller. It's my pleasure to welcome in the newest member of the End Zone team, Andrew Clay. Nothing like a thriller. Time to talk about playoffs, Andrew. Playoffs?
Toss it over to Jeff Williamson, standing by in our fan zone.
It's time to activate our playoff tracker. Whoop, bam, there you go.
Follow him on Twitter. I just want to mention that. He's looking pretty good on those highlights right now.
Yes. You also have an alter ego. Can you talk about your other career as a professional wrestler?
There you go.
This footage
a
right here.
little trash can, but
wow. That'll do it.
For his beard. I'm David Guzman.
And I'm Tom Dempsey. Thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend.
Everett Withers is focused on his first season at James Madison. The season opener from the Dukes is 5 weeks from tomorrow, and Withers has a lot of work to do before then.
You know, playing for championships, that's why you come to places like JMU. You come to places that have lived that dream and smelled that air before, and you want to get back to that.
If you remember, Withers was hired in late December after Mickey Matthews was fired. The former Ohio State defensive coordinator brings 26 years of experience with him to the Valley. And football talk aside, Withers says he's adjusted to living in rural Virginia.
People in Harrisonburg have been great, a very close community, very warm community.
Dukes with a 2-point lead, and Daniel Brown, what can Brown do for you? Sneaks into the end zone. That's his second touchdown of the game.
Leading the way for the Dukes today, Taylor Reynolds, who became the first Duke to have 2 interceptions returned for a touchdown, and his 2 defensive touchdown ties a school record. In Richmond, Andrew Clay, WHSV Sports.
All Withers was looking for was growth in the program, and today he saw that growth rewarded with a playoff berth. Let's take a look at JMU's section of the 2014 bracket. The Duke's name is on the bottom of your screen. They'll host a playoff game for the first time since 2008, and it's an in-state opponent, Liberty University, the champions of the Big South Conference.
The road to Frisco never even left Harrisonburg for JMU. Yes, the Dukes took advantage of 4 turnovers by Liberty in the first half, but then an 11-minute drive in the fourth quarter by the Flames left JMU with just 1 full possession in that final period, and they failed to capitalize, with the Dukes ending their season in the first round of the FCS playoffs.
The grind of 8:30 a.m. practices continues for the Redskins as the players put in their 5th straight day of work at training camp. But a well-earned break is on the way, and Sports Director David DeGuzman has the details in this report from Richmond.
Andy, for the 3rd straight day, the Redskins had practice in full pads today on what was a gorgeous day 5 of training camp here in Richmond, and there's no doubt that this was the most intense session they've had yet. A huge win for the Redskins at their home opener comes with a big loss to the Washington roster. An update on RG3's injury next in sports. Good morning from FedEx Field. I'm David Guzman with your Sports Buzz for this Friday morning. Washington waking up today 0-2 in the division after a critical NFC East battle was decided by costly turnovers, with the Redskins falling into a hole that they couldn't get out of. For Kirk Cousins, this is the first time in his career that he's making back-to-back starts in the span of 5 days. I guess you could say the 3rd quarterback is the charm after head coach Jay Gruden resorting to his 3rd-string QB after Kirk Cousins threw for his 9th interception of the season, capping a miserable first half for the QB. The team going into the locker room amid a chorus of dissatisfaction from the fans, but the boos turned into cheers when Colt McCoy took the field, throwing his first touchdown in nearly 2 years. Gruden responded by saying no one deserved any of their starting spots after today's lopsided performance.
Of course, this win was particularly big for Deshaun Jackson, who beat his former team for the first time since leaving the Eagles' nest. He had 4 receptions today for 126 yards and said after the press conference it was good to be on this side of the result, sending Philadelphia home with a loss.